opportunity to share the life and events and stories of African Americans during the month of February. I'm so proud of this series that we have done, and this is the fourth year of the 5 years we've been doing the podcast that we have been sharing these stories. Some of the stories and some of the people that we share during this month are less known. Some of them, their life's work has been obfuscated. Every one of these stories are of great Americans, and that's what we want to do with Threads in Our Fabric, to show them has contributed to this great nation. You know, truth authenticates who we are. No matter how many times we try to obfuscate the truth, verifies who we are as a people. And through Threads in Our Fabric, we have an opportunity to share these stories, these people, their life, and some of the great contributions that they've made. Some have been cast away in history. Some have been hidden in history. But as we erupt in knowledge, as we erupt in technology, we're finding out more and more about some of these great people and their contributions to this nation. You know, Oscar Wilde said that life imitates art more than art imitates life. And this story is one of those opportunities we get to share with you where art imitates life. Growing up, one of my greatest heroes on the media scene in front of me was the Lone Ranger. I used to listen to it on the radio. I used to watch it every Saturday morning. I love the Lone Ranger because of the morals that he brought to the television station. You know, that he was a crime fighter, that he hid his identity because of some events that had happened. So he wanted to hide his identity. He was a master of disguise. He rode on a white horse and had silver bullets. And so I was not very cordial with the whole Western scene, but I did love the Lone Ranger. And one of the other things I loved about the Lone Ranger, and I think that I gravitated more to Lone Ranger was because of this, was that he had a Native American, somebody that was a person of color, who was more of an equal than a sidekick, named Tonto. And as they went around fighting crime, it showed really how we should be as Americans, is that we should be trying to make life better for everyone. And sometimes we don't have to kill, we don't have to hurt in order to do that. Well, my television hero as a child, I found out about 5 years ago, was based on an actual ranger, who was the first African-American ranger by the name of Bass Reeves. And I was so intrigued with Bass' story, I thought we wouldn't pay homage to Threads in Our Fabric without telling Bass Reeves' story. Bass Reeves was really the model for my childhood hero, the Lone Ranger. He was the actual Lone Ranger. And so here on Threads in Our Fabric, we're going to tell the story of Bass Reeves. And so thank you so much. And watch the story of Bass Reeves, the real Lone Ranger without a mask.
Bass Reeves was born a slave in 1838 in Crawford County, Arkansas. Under the ownership of farmer and politician William Reeves, Bass Reeves worked alongside his parents and was a water boy until he became old enough to work as a field hand. William Reeves moved his farming operations, including his slaves, to Grayson County, Texas around 1846. Bass Reeves was known for his tall stature, good manners, and sense of humor, and it was in Texas that these characteristics caught the attention of his master's son, George. George Reeves eventually chose Bass to become his bodyguard and valet, and the two became rather loyal companions. When Texas sided with the Confederacy, George Reeves joined the Confederate Army and Bass went along with him. It was during the Civil War that Bass and George Reeves parted ways, and many speculate the reasons for their parting. Some legends say that the two got into a heated dispute over a card game, others say that Bass overheard talk of freeing slaves and just ran away. Whatever the circumstance, Bass Reeves ended up in what was then called Indian Territory, in present-day Oklahoma. He took refuge with members of the Seminole, Cherokee, and Creek nations, learning their languages, customs, and tracking skills which served him well during his later law enforcement career. It was during this time that he also honed his skills with a pistol, and while he humbly claimed throughout his life that he was only a fair shot, he was regularly barred from turkey shooting competitions in the territory. In 1863, Bass Reeves was ultimately freed from his life as a slave and a fugitive by the Emancipation Proclamation. He left Indian Territory and bought land near Van Buren, Arkansas, which he used to successfully farm and ranch. In addition to farming and ranching, Reeves occasionally worked as a scout and guide for U.S. deputy marshals entering Indian Territory on business of the Van Buren Federal Court. His first wife was Nellie Jenny, whom he married in 1864, and she died in 1896. Reeves officially began his law enforcement career in 1875 after the Federal Western District Court was moved to Fort Smith, Arkansas. He was hired as a deputy by Judge Isaac C. Parker, who had been tasked by President Ulysses S. Grant to clean up the Native American territory. Reeves was one of the 200 deputies hired by Judge Parker in 1875, and he was the only one on record that stayed until Oklahoma achieved statehood in 1907. In his 32-year tenure as a U.S. Marshal, Reeves was known for his ruthlessness and his ability to catch outlaws that other deputies couldn't. Reeves was reportedly involved in a number of shootouts, yet was never injured. By 1901, it was reported that he had arrested 3,000 men and women who had broken federal laws in the Native American territory, one of which was his own son Ben Reeves, who was convicted in the murder of his wife over an affair she was having. Reeves achieved all of this while also being illiterate due to his background as a former slave, so he would memorize the warrants and writs he served. He married Winnie Sumter in 1900, and they remained together until his death in 1910. Reeves had a total of 11 children. The Native American territory was notoriously the most dangerous for federal law enforcement officers in the Old West. Records show that 120 lost their lives before Oklahoma achieved statehood in 1907. Bass Reeves himself escaped numerous assassination attempts as he was the most feared of federal officers in the territory. Reeves retired from federal service upon Oklahoma's statehood in 1907 at the age of 67, but his law enforcement career was not yet over. He went on to serve as city policeman in Muskogee, Oklahoma, for 2 years prior to his death in 1910. Bass Reeves' life and service are a true testament to the tenacity and willingness to add to the greatness of America. Reeves is a national treasure. Bass Reeves, the Lone Ranger without a mask, is truly a thread in the tapestry of America's rich history.